extra field of view doesn't fix awareness. It just feeds the illusion of more control. If you can't feel the car in 120 degrees, it definitely won't change at 140. People think an extra 10 degrees of field of view will save their races, but it won't. In VR, you make a trade-off. Or you go for wild field of view, or you go for razor sharp vision. In this video, I will share my experience with the Pimax Super Ultra-Wide and how it compares to the 50 PPD and the 57 PPD. I've been sim racing for years and I've been only doing this in VR. So from the Quest 2, HP Reverb, Pimax Crystal Light and all the 3 super headsets. So let's go. If we explain extremes, you can also figure out the average, and I will also explain what the difference in my experience was with the 50 PPD and the Ultra-Wide. Because with the 57 PPD you got a very sharp razor image, and something that is really important to understand is that this part of the small field of view gives you a lot of focused clarity and sharpness. This will also translate into further sight clarity. So if you have a long straight hair like over here, with the 57 PPD that is gonna look so much better. Also, fences and thin lines are gonna look twice as good with a very focused field of view. I will also talk about the 50 PPD and the ultra-wide comparison, because with the Pimax headsets they say they're the same lenses but they're just spread out a bit more binocular overlap. I will explain here as well how that feels and how that looks and how it's gonna make a difference for you. Before I talk about the ultra-wide, let me explain a little bit of this, how this went from a Crystal Light all the way up to this point. I bought the Crystal Light myself, it wasn't sponsored or anything. Then Pimax reached out to me to try the Super. I said to them, please no, because I think that they're gonna send it to me, I maybe need to bring it back and I'll get used to the Super. And that is what actually happened. It is a lot better, especially when you put it on your face. With the light you really need to search the sweet spot. With the Supers you don't have that issue. Even not with the 57, it's you put it on, it works. Also, it sits more comfortable. A super headset sits more comfortable on your face. So, enough with the fluff. Let's talk about this ultra-wide and why I think it's a bit overkill to me. So, let's see, we got more field of view. There's no question about it. You got some more. So, what does that mean? And how can you actually use this in your races? Imagine you're running up to an apex over here and you have let's say if you would look dead straight ahead, you would look over here. Now with an ultra wide you can turn your eyes over here, right? And you can see the corner of this window, and an ultra wide can give that to you. Also the normal 50 PPD will give that to you. But I found that the clarity of the ultra-wide starts to disappear when you're searching to the edges. So let's imagine if you really want to go look to the left, like the binocular overview, yeah, what people are talking about a lot on the Reddit and stuff. And you can see here this part. You see that black line? When you are on the ultra-wide and you look around with your eyes, you get this binocular overhead way more quickly than the 50 PPD. Super. You can see it here as well. And if you cannot see it on the video, this is what you see. This is very extreme. This is not it's not white, it's black. It's also something that you kind of forget. Here's a picture on the iRacing. How I can see the difference between an ultra-wide and the 50 PPD as a field of view is kind of, you don't see this part. So with a normal super, you're a little bit having a little bit less of this. But here's the thing. If somebody dive bombs you on a corner entry, do you think you're gonna have because you see the car coming from this part over here, like this small piece, is that actually gonna save your races? I don't think so. I think you could also see that from this mirror. Or with iRacing, for instance, you got the virtual mirror on top as well. So that is not gonna save it for you. I think the 50 ppd is best. Why? Because it allows me to look more around these edges without the binocular overlap. And if you're liking this kind of content, could you please hit that like button? That would really help me out. And check the links down below for some special offers for the Pimax headsets. You can bring them back within 14 days. So if you don't like these headsets, you can just ship them back. So yes, with the ultra-wide, I see more. It is wider, yes. But when I want to look at those edges, you got this binocular overhead more quickly. So it's kind of defeating the purposes, isn't it? It's kind of like, okay, yeah, I can go have more field of view, but that's only applicable when you see dead straight ahead. So if you're really wanting to see forward, then you don't have the problem of this binocular thing. When you are in menus or when you want to read different stuff, you know, lap times or delta or whatever overlays you might have in your vision, I think the 50 ppd is superior here because it allows me to look more around in my field of view, although it being a bit smaller. So that is the actual difference. Again, I have to admit, I am pretty biased when it comes to picture clarity. And let's talk about the 57 ppd a bit more, about how this razor sharpness is kind of... I like the focused area a lot more. I like this a lot. And you are also gonna like this a lot more if you don't have a 5090 like I have. I have a 5090, so I can get away with the 50 ppd. I will tell you right now, to achieve the same picture over here with the 57 ppd, like I'm thinking about adjustabilities that you can have on the picture clarity, right? So if you're thinking about getting the perfect picture and you don't have a 5090 or something less, then this headset makes a lot of sense. Because it's one thing to get great picture clarity when you're alone on track in like very light conditions. But if you have an ultra-wide or a 50 ppd, you're gonna run into the issue where we got 60 cars on track, rainy races, or a little bit of a, I don't know, you might run a little bit like challenging settings. Then the 50 ppd and the ultra-wide are so much more demanding. So whenever you are facing a big grid or you have a VR game that is not really that optimized for VR, the ultra-wide is so much heavier on your system, creating a overall great picture. So to sum this up, and what you should do, like this is what you have, the overlap, the black line over here with the ultra-wide. Something else that is even more important, and why I think if you're in hypercars or open wheelers, the ultra-wide does make a bit more sense. But then again, if you're keen on having your head straight and you're looking from left to right, you're gonna have more of this overlap all of a sudden. I've tested these three headsets, right? I got the ultra-wide, I got the normal one, I got the 57 ppd, and the thing is, if you order one and you make a decision, you don't have the luxury of seeing the differences between them. I came from the 57 ppd and then I went to the ultra-wide, and that vision was, I thought it was a really big difference, and I had to really tune my settings a bit down to get my steady frame rates again with the ultra-wide and the 50 ppd. If you want that wideness and you want that like coming from all the edges, I think the 50 ppd and the ultra-wide is not that big of a difference. Maybe the numbers will be different, but the actual experience, it is also very important, if you already got the 50 ppd and you see the ultra-wide, there's no point in upgrading to the ultra-wide. I think that the 50 ppd is still the best pick, the best sweet spot and you pick the 57 PPD if you're a sucker for picture quality and focus and far sight sharpness. So I kind of hope that helps you out, clarify a few things. Don't get lost in all the numbers. Also, the OLED is coming out. If I can get to test it, then I'll bring that video up right here. But also think that it's important to note that that OLED is again a bit like a lot more expensive. And OLED vs QLED, I mean, there's a whole can of worms that you can open up there as well. Thanks for watching.